Bunch of redneck Robin Hoods. Bunch of redneck Robin Hoods. Hey, we're living good. Back in the woods.
Live back up in the room with our good friend Giuliano. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm cool, brother. How are you doing tonight?
You look like you're sweating like a pig down there, dang-nabbit, compared to me up here. I still got ice on the ground.
Dude, I am sweating down here, man. It's 25 degrees Celsius here for us.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. It is like swimming pool weather for you guys up there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I'm sitting at about -1 Celsius right now.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's pretty cold for me.
Yeah. So I'm about 30 degrees, maybe a little lower than that right now up here. So we're gonna get down into the 20s tonight, Fahrenheit. So that'd be what, probably about a -3 or 4 for you.
Yeah, that's cold enough for me. Does it get any colder there in the winter? Now in January or in February, is it gonna get any colder?
No, this is about the coldest time. It'll start warming up from here on up, probably.
Really?
Our winter's usually December, January, February, right around there.
So what's the lowest temperature you guys got there in the winter?
Where I'm at right now, I think the lowest so far this year is we had a -15 Fahrenheit. So a -15 Fahrenheit would be, let me think here off the top of my head, about -26, 27 for you.
Wow, that's cold.
And then the wind chill drops it down probably to about a -37 for you.
Yeah, that's pretty cold, man.
I'm not that. I'm kind of like in the middle of the states in Ohio. So up further up north, they're going to get a lot colder too. So
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
And being these changes, like today, it went up to almost 40.
Oh,
Tonight
wow.
it'll be down in the 20s. And then you don't know, like last night it snowed.
It's very changeable, the weather there, right? I mean,
so you've got to deal with this coming through. So if I was out camping yesterday, it would have been cold, and then the snow would have hit, everything froze again, and then today it's back up in the 40s. Everything is just saturated with water because all the snow and ice was melting, and the rain came down.
Yeah.
And then it's going to get cold enough to freeze again tonight.
I bet it must make a big mess with all the mud and dirt, snow, and all that mixed together, huh? Pretty messy.
And then after that, if you go out in the woods, you go out there and everything gets wet, and then everything gets frozen, and everything's hard, and it gets, so now's a rotten time. If you had to really go out and survive and deal all that with trying to get firewood and everything else, it would be a bad time of year to have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, at least that's a scenario I don't have to deal with down here where I am. I do have to deal with high levels of humidity and water and drenched material too, but the cold, which is a major concern in any survival scenario, let's put it this way, this is something I don't really have to worry too much, at least not at this season, in the season of the year now, in the summer here.
Well, a lot of people know, and you know yourself, the different biozones that you're in down there and what we have up here in the States. Even in the desert, the temperature can drop so far down that you can get hypothermia.
Oh, yeah.
And people need to think about that, because just because it's 80, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, that people are enjoying a nice day out there, that would be, in the 30s or so Celsius for you. And then all of a sudden, 40 degrees later, it drops down in the evening at night. You
Rich,
know, we're talking major chances of having some physical problems.
I'm gonna tell you something which I have probably mentioned here before, but some people might not have heard it. And you might get surprised to know that people do die of hypothermia in Brazil in the summer. No, I'm not kidding. In the summer, people can die, and they do die, in fact, of hypothermia in Brazil. And you say, but come on, Brazil, tropical country, very hot, summer. How can people die in the summer there? The thing is, it all depends where you are and the specific conditions, the weather conditions at that moment where you're going through. But it's for example, let's say you are on the top of a high mountain here, one of these sierras we got here, camping, hiking, whatever, and then it starts raining. You're gonna get rained on really, really heavily, really, really bad. And if you don't have like any ways to make a shelter to protect yourself from the rain, to keep your clothes dry, you're going to be in trouble. And one of these places where I usually go camping in these sierras, I have heard stories of people dying there. Actually, in the same year I went there, was hiking up there, a man died of hypothermia because that's what happened. He got rained on, had no dry clothes, had no way to protect himself from the rain, got hypothermia. He had to spend the night, outdoors, exposed to the wind and all that. But he didn't survive the night. And you say, oh, but what about the leopards and the mosquitoes and yada, yada, yada? Just look at the statistics. It's a worldwide statistics. Number one killer worldwide, hypothermia. That goes to Brazil, there in the United States, Europe, maybe even in Africa. I don't know, dude. I just remembered something here. This guy, this Brazilian, it is a real sad story. This Brazilian guy, about 6 years ago, I guess, he went to Africa. He wanted to go climbing a mountain there, which I don't remember in what country it was, but the mountain was called by the local people as a man killer. It was how they called that mountain, man killer. And the guy wanted to go, visiting that place. He had hired a local guide to take him up there. And as they were climbing up, the guide saw these clouds approaching, and he advised the guy, he suggested going back down to the village and abort the mission, abort the trip, the hike. And the Brazilian dude, he decided that he was very smart and didn't need the guide, and told him to go back to his village and said he could make it by himself out there. Well, unfortunately for him and for his family, he didn't make it out alive. He died a few days later. They were actually hiring Brazilian rescue teams to go all the way to Africa to rescue his body. When they called Brazilian teams here saying, and the family saying that they had found his body, and according to the accounts to people that found his body, he had no gear. He had left his backpack somewhere else. So apparently, when he saw that he was he had got lost and he was in trouble, he dropped his equipment and went running nuts, like a crazy man trying to get out there anyhow, and he couldn't make it. He actually tried to make like a big bird's nest and crawl inside and spend the night, but he didn't have a fire, he didn't have a space blanket, he didn't have his backpack, whatever jackets, whatever extra clothes he might have in his backpack, and he didn't make out, he didn't survive the night. Hypothermia killed a man in Africa.
Now you got
So,
the difference now. The difference between hypothermia and hyperthermia.
Hypo.
Yeah, hypo, low. Your temperature
Yeah.
drops down low, and then hyper, where the temperature is too high. Is that a killer down there in Brazil quite a bit also?
Oh yeah, but then
More so the hypo because of the wet and the changing and everything.
no, I don't really, I cannot say that for sure because I don't have the numbers here. I don't have the statistics, but I would totally risk saying that people don't get as much of hyperthermia here as they die of hypothermia here. Because let me tell you what, how can you die of hyperthermia here? I mean, you've got to be in the desert here. You've got to be in this deep Caatinga or something. There are little trees and little bushes and sort of shady areas where you can like shelter, for the day. Whereas if you are exposed to the rain and the wind, that's a deadly combination.
Oh yeah.
You are more likely to die of hypothermia in Brazil than hyperthermia because, I mean, seriously, there are places where you can find a shelter from the shade, small bushes and underbrushes and trees and things like that. But, I mean, if you're exposed to the rain and to the wind and you have no proper shelter, there's no roof, no canopy above your head to take care of that, you're not going to make it. You're very likely going to die during the night. And it's I'm telling you this because I have been in a situation where I was, again on the top of a sierra, setting my shelter, and the heavy rain came down, the wind was blowing so bad, and I'm not kidding. I was having trouble, just to touch my fingers like this and to tie the knots that I needed to do to finish my shelter. And I couldn't believe it. Well, again, it was summer, Brazil, daylight, and there I am shivering and having one of my coldest days in my life in the summer in Brazil. And you're going to say, it doesn't happen, but it does happen. So, and I would more likely die in a scenario like that than exposed to the sun. However, you could also have trouble with the sun here, but I just don't think it's such a common case here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. More so with the water and the wind and those things than being like out here in the north in the southwest, something like that where you'd be exposed to sun and not being able to get out of it, or drying out, or not having enough water to drink, something like that. Yeah, it depends on your environment. It depends on where you are in the world. It depends especially on what you take with you. I mean,
Now I was actually checking out, watching the conversation you guys were having before, discussing the gear and the backpack count and everything. And this, you just nailed the thing here again when you say it depends on what kind of gear you have on you. Because I'll tell you what, if you have like a military poncho, a small piece of tarp, maybe even like a space.
A garbage bag.
I'm sorry, what?
A garbage bag.
A garbage bag. Yeah, you're totally right. Anything, any plastic, modern, thing which you can stretch above your head, and a lighter. You can totally affect your survival, either here in Brazil, up there in the States, wherever you are, because you repel off the rain. You can actually make a fire. If you were wet, you can dry your clothes. I've mentioned before that I don't like wearing blue jeans in my camp trips in the rainy season, just because it takes forever for the blue jeans to dry out. But even though I sometimes camp in blue jeans and they get wet, I dry my blue jeans by the fire, and I know that I'll be okay because I have that fire burning there. So slowly I will be able to dry my clothes and all that. And you got to be able to have the right gear, the right equipment to help you in case you really find yourself in a situation where your life depends on those things, right?
Now, see, I don't like to wear blue jeans out camping either. I wear old dress pants or some kind of Docker pants that we have up here, stuff like that, or military pants that can be wrung out, dried out very quickly, and gone that way. I mean, that's why they are what they are. Now,
Yeah.
of course, undergarments and other things depending on the weather, but the fact of getting it dry and that's a big thing for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, one of the things during the rainy season here in Brazil, I always go for our military uniforms or the twill fabric type of cloth, because the composition of the fabric, they actually combine let's say amounts of polyester and amounts of cotton.
Right.
I have found something really interesting because I've been collecting American military uniforms for a good deal of time. I noticed that most of your garment, most of the American uniforms are 50-50, 50 polyester, 50 cotton, which is okay, right? On the other hand, the Brazilian military uniforms, they usually have 70% polyester and only 30% cotton.
That's
So,
because it dries faster.
oh my gosh, much faster. I'm serious.
My t-shirts that I wear are microfiber polyester. I've gone to that and gotten rid of all my cotton t-shirts. I have polyester t-shirts that I wear all the time now, like Starter brand or all, the Under Armours, things like that.
That's good.
Strictly for those reasons. As I've gotten older, I don't want to deal with that stuff. I'm not as tough as I used to be when I was younger.
I remember sleeping on the t-shirt that I had been in the rain like a few hours before that, just because they dried in my body so fast that I was able to sleep on them again and no problems. And that's it, man. You gotta be able to know the weather, the conditions of the environment where you're going to, and adjust not only your survival kit, your backpack, whatever equipment you take with you, but also the clothing you're wearing. I am a big fan of blue jeans. I like wearing my blue jeans every day if I can, even in the bush. But again, only in the dry season, because I know I won't have no problems with water, with the humidity, whatever. So I'm good to go. But yeah, so polyester, these modern fabrics that have a lot of polyester and nylon, they are usually a good choice. One of the big advantages of military uniforms and clothing is because they are hard wearing, they are usually cheap, especially if they are like second hand, and they dry out really fast too. So that's why I see a lot of people out there in the bush
Now,
wearing.
you have a comment in the room. Mama Sass wants to know. She says, even though they're easier to dry, what about keeping you warm? Well, I don't. It's the same fact.
Good.
It keeps me warm, but the fact is, whenever it comes to keeping warm or keeping dry, then the other day Sergeant Porcupine, who's in the room now, did a show, and he said when he's out there, he wears something to keep the water and the wind off of him. So he wears a nylon jacket or something like that that sheds the water easily, things like that. So layers are the major thing. Different layers that you wear.
Yeah. As for me down here in Brazil, you guys have to understand it's slightly different. I still use the layer principle concept, let's put it this way, in the winter here, and that's the way to go for in whatever cold areas you're going to. But now in the rainy season, I don't really have to worry so much about temperature, keeping myself warm, because even though it rains, if you are not in the rain, like, exposed to the rain itself, you're not really cold. So, for example, let's say I'm in camp. I will be under a canopy. I will probably be exposed to the rain very little, so I won't get too wet. I don't really have to worry so much about that. Whereas if I had to stay out in the rain for long periods of time, then of course I would have to figure out not only a way to repel off the rain, but also warm up my temperature a little bit, just a little bit, because again, even though
I know a better reason why you wear layers, and I know why you and Mac both wear layers, and everybody goes down there jungle with you. You wear a long sleeve shirt and a short sleeve shirt, is because everything wants to bite you, stick you, sting you in that jungle and in them areas down there, and scratches and everything else can become infected so fast and so easily. So having a long sleeve shirt, although you may be hotter with a long sleeve shirt, it's protection of your skin while you're going through and busting bush or doing other things out there. So even in that case, the layers of keeping the bush, the sticks, the animals, the whatever else off of you.
yeah, but in this case, we are talking about just one outer layer, which would be your BDU jacket or any jacket that does what you said, protects you from these outer aggressors, let's put it this way, bugs and branches and all that. But one funny thing that I have observed during the Vietnam War, when the American troopers had their jungle experience in Vietnam, I learned that a lot of them combatants and bony rats, they didn't really wear underwear or t-shirts underneath their jungle fatigues. Sometimes they had their socks and boots and pants, but no underwear and no t-shirts and just the jungle fatigue jacket on the top of it, just because it was too hot and because they had chiggers and ticks and all these little things that also attack people. So that's one thing that they did. They also had to carry all that equipment, and you dehydrate really easily in that situation. So you don't really need a whole lot, and actually you don't really want a whole lot on the top of you. I remember, Mac, when we had our first 6-day trip in the Mata Atlântica, we had to have our jackets on, and both of us had not only the jackets but also the t-shirts underneath. And man, I am pretty used to the weather here in these conditions, and I was sweating like a pig. I was having a hard time. Mac was having a much harder time, and he was getting dehydrated really bad. Although he was drinking water, we were trying to keep hydrated. But just because of the effort of navigating, chopping, hacking through the vines and carrying the backpack and wearing all those clothing, those layers, it tears on you really bad. I mean, it really, plays a trick on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Now, you've got a video tonight you gave me.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. As we have been discussing about survival kits, we showed a few items of my main survival kit in the past shows. And now I'd like to discuss a little bit about fire. I remember that you mentioned one of these shows ago that I possibly carry a little bit more fire implements than you do. And I would like to show you guys the reason why I do that, why I want to make sure that I have many ways to make fire here. It's because, especially now in the rainy season, when you go out camping and you get there in the jungle, in the bushes, and everything is wet after a whole week of heavy rains, you are going to have a degree of hard work to get your fire going. You will be there babysitting your fire, blowing on it for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, almost 1 hour, until you dry out the material well enough to gather all these things and the fire became sustainable. Sometimes you need a good chunk of cotton balls with Vaseline to keep that flame there, drying out the kindling, faster and all that, just to make sure your fire is going to work.
You make a really, and I'm a fan of this. You make a really good fire starting cotton ball material that you do your videos on. I know you've got numerous hits on that. So if anybody wants to, they can go to Giuliano's channel and check out his cotton ball setup, the wax cotton balls that he does. And it's not just throw it down, light it either. There's a way that you got to have a wick part on. You got to have fibers to catch the flame to go that route. And he explains that during the video. So I suggest that you all go to his YouTube channel and check out his YouTube and watch him make those, and he teaches you how to. And those are pretty much fail-safe. They really are.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about those wax blobs, man, it's when I first came up with those, I had been watching a few of those YouTube videos back in 2008, 2007, 2008, I guess, and people had been talking about trioxin, which is this fancy American military fuel. And these guys were tearing apart their little bags and showing the trioxin and making fire, showing how easy and nice it is to cook with those things. And I said, dang, I'm never going to have access to trioxin down here in Brazil. I got to figure out a better way to prepare my meals, because it has to do with the stock we're having here. Sometimes I'm camping out there, and just because it is raining so bad, I don't want to make a fire. I don't have to make a fire all the time. So how am I going to cook my meals? You know, using whatever other ways I can figure out. And those wax globes were a solution for that problem, for that cooking problem. And as a matter of fact, I use those more as fuel for my cooking pans than as a fire starter per se. Because when I want to start a fire, even though the material is really wet and everything, I usually carry, you know, some good chunks of cotton balls and Vaseline, which usually take care of the business really well. If they don't, I might add some strips of inner tube, like a Ranger bands that I cut, you know, and those will, you know, add more fuel to your fire, so the flames will burn longer.
And in case somebody doesn't realize what a Ranger band is, a Ranger band is what?
It's a piece of inner tube, you know, like that rubber tube that goes inside the wheels, bicycle, yeah, the tire. So you cut those, and you have like these circles. They are so common. I mean, everybody on YouTube has those Ranger bands attached to their gears, you know, as fire starter or whatever, because they have 1,000 uses in the bush. So you can cut those pieces of rubber, you know, inner tube, and burn them. Of course, you're not going to breathe the black smoke that comes out of the burning process, but they make for a very good artificial tinder, artificial fire starter. If you have like a lighter, and if you have like some bands like those, you probably won't have any difficulties to start your fires in the jungle, even if you are in the rainy conditions, in real bad rainy conditions, if you have enough material. So now you might understand why I make sure I will have enough material to burn there, because there is so much involved. I might not be able to stay up all night long, you know, watching the fire and adding wood to the fire. So the next day when I wake up, my fire might be out, and I might have to start it all over again. There might not be not even an ember there I can blow on and get it started. So I probably have to do it over again, and I want to have more material if I don't, you know what I'm saying? Well, let's play the video now. Let me talk a little bit about the video here. Again, I have to apologize because I don't have the English subtitles, but I'll tell you what you'll see. This video was shot during the advanced training of our survival school down here in Brazil, Bushmaster. And what we intend to do is to show people why it is better for you to bring modern means, a modern survival kit to the bush with you to take care of your problems, rather than having to rely on bushcraft skills or primitive skills to get those tasks accomplished. For example, fire. I mean, dude, just carry a freaking lighter in your pocket and a few pieces of Ranger bands, and you have the problem solved. Now, if you don't have these simple implements here, you have to go for primitive fire. You have to start playing Nazi here. And when you are in a survival situation, that's not the moment for you to play the caveman. If you have to play the caveman under such stressful conditions, when your psychological stability will be affected, when you might be injured, when you might be hungry, when you might, you know, not be in the conditions to affect fire by, you know, doing the primitive thing. So what we do is we take our students to the bush on their clothes. They do have a modern survival kit, but it's just used in case of a real emergency. They will have to affect their shelter, water, and fire using basically the machetes and the knives they got. It is hard work, man. I can tell you it is hard work. These people get into the bush at 9 o'clock in the morning. They start working in their bush bed. They finish their bush bed. They go for the bow drill. They are all advanced students that to a degree, they already know the technique. And you will see that one of the guys, he was a pretty big and strong dude. And it took him quite like 30 minutes to get the ember. And he tried it over and over and over and over until he finally got it. And it was really tough on him. So you will see the video. I don't know, Rich, if it's okay if I can keep my mic open, because there's not much talk during the video.
Sure.
So that should give me the chance to make a few comments and help people understand better what's going on.
Yep, yep.
So if you can play the video now, please.
Yep, sure thing. Here we go.
All right, thank you. Well, the introduction here is actually telling that a lot of people get the wrong idea by watching certain TV shows, and they see people making fire and making shelters really easily. But they have to understand that in a lot of those cases, the protagonists are not really exposed to the hard conditions of a survival situation. So that might lead some people, some more naive people, to think that you can easily affect your shelter, your fire and water, and those basic needs easily without, you know, the modern means. And here we are explaining that throughout the training of our school, you know, throughout the levels, the student will be exposed to situations when they can use modern means and when they have to use primitive and bushcraft techniques, and then they get to see the difference and how hard things really are. And this is what they will be watching here on the video. Okay, these are the two guys at 9 o'clock in the morning. They are walking into the bush. They have the clothes on their backs and their backpacks. This is their bush bed. They're working on their bush bed. They are using vines to lash the material, the wood. Collecting grass. That's a grass mattress. The dude is preparing the bow drill set to try to get the fire, the primitive fire going later. Classic betoning. He's actually working a piece of imbaúba tree, if I'm not wrong. You see that the light is not too good anymore. It's getting dark. By the time they were working on the fire, it was probably around 6:30. So we did not have much sunlight left, and it was one of their very first attempts to get the fire going. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to film either, right? No, no, you can't. Yeah. Well, what we do is, if they can't get the bow drill, the fire going with the bow drill method, we give them the chance to use the flint and steel, which is actually easier and might help them out a little bit better. But actually, they did not need the help with the flint and steel. They were able to affect the fire with the bow drill. But you see, that's a big guy there, and he's having trouble to get the thing going. And you can see how sweaty he is, how tired. And remember that that's after a whole day of hard work. And they had like breakfast, at that time, 7 o'clock, that's all they had in their stomach. The breakfast they had like at 8 o'clock in the morning. They had no lunch, hard work, very little water, and no fire going. Yeah, this is really cool because Marcos, that big guy there, he had given like a 6 or 7 trials. And then he stopped, looked at the thing, and everybody said, all right, he's not going to get the fire. So he looked at the set for quite a few minutes, and then he gave a second try, a last try, and then that's the one you guys are seeing, and that's the one when he actually got the ember going and was able to get the fire. But you will see, it was not that simple. Just observe how hard it was for him to get that fire going. Oh yeah. But let me tell you what. Let me tell you what. I know what I know what show you're talking about. I remember one when you have mentioned that once, and I remember watching Les Strauss working on his bow drill. His spindle, his drill kept flying all over the place all the time, and I was saying, man, he should try to work out his socket, his the hand block. What do you call that? The socket, the bearing block. I thought, man, I mean, if he deepened the hole there a little bit better, maybe that would work out. And after quite a few hours, that's exactly what he did. If that's the right show we're talking, the same show we're talking about, where he deepened the hole in the socket, and then he got the fire going. And I said, oh, I knew that. If you had listened to me, 8 hours earlier, that time, I seriously thought that, man, that was fun. Oh yeah, that's a warrior there, man. Marcão, he's a great guy. He's an awesome dude. Great student. He went. But it all depends on the local conditions. I I sometimes find it easier just to put the bundle down on the ground and blow onto it, or some. Yeah, seriously. But some, sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I don't always do the same thing, but I might change depending if I find it's going to make it easier. And sometimes for me, it does make it easier if I just blow it on the ground. Yeah, but you see that he has been blowing on that bundle there for quite a while now, and just now he gets the smoke going.
Quase.
Yeah, just now he's getting it going. He's a tough mother, man. He won't give it up.
Aí, Gabriel. Tá quase.
Yeah, that's the
Aí,
best, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, you see how excited he gets and everybody gets, and then after the fire is burning there, he stands up and he curses really loud and says, "Dang, it was the hardest fire of my life," and starts, and everybody just laughs, and then it's cool because, and then I say, few people know the taste of such a victory. To be able to produce your fire under such hard conditions,
pra qualquer
and
não,
that's
viu,
such
gente?
a victory that only a few people know the taste of, right?
Que pariu.
Isso não é pra qualquer um não, galera. Isso não é pra qualquer um não, ó. Isso aí que vocês fizeram não é pra qualquer um não. Isso aí que vocês fizeram foi uma vitória aí que
Oh, yeah.
pouca gente conhece o sabor dessa vitória aí, ó.
That was hard. The first guy, Vinicius, he had tried. He gave like 3 trials, and Marcos himself must have tried that bow drill for like at least 10 times, man. I'm not exaggerating. At least 10 times. They had to carve like 2 holes. They're gonna show that real soon. They had to carve 2 holes on the hearth in order to until they actually got the ember.
Simplesmente o Abarelli é o caminhado de fazer. Caminhado tem que fazer para.
Chegar até aqui, né?
And that fire burns really beautifully after all.
Eu sou o cara
Yeah,
que sabe.
yeah.
Olha,
Foda, né?
And that was a cold night. I was afraid. Although he, he is in his muscle shirt there. It wasn't too late. Like I said, it was probably like 7, something close to 7. So it wasn't too cold. But at 3, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Aí tentamos com muita dificuldade. O finalzinho acabou que quebrou essa ponta aqui e aí ficou ruim.
The first one did. The first, yeah. As they were working it out, the tip just split out.
E aí fizemos esse aqui.
Yeah, that happens quite commonly. You see that the tip had been like chewed up, so there might be small cracks that you don't see, and as you are putting the pressure, making the pressure downwards, it will crack and just. No, I don't. This is Vinicius. Now he's gonna tell how hard of a day it was. He will explain that all the trouble that they had to get the water, to make the shelter, and to get the fire going, and then now he's going for dinner. And he says, now I'm here and I'm going to go for dinner, and my dinner is nothing than half a candy and a little bit of water. After, no, actually there's a little rivulet that runs down the mountain, and we don't tell them where the water is, but we encourage them to think where the water would be, and we tell them, if you were the water, where would you be going right now? Think as a water. Where does the water go? The water goes down. So what's the...
Na hora do almoço a fome bateu legal, assim, deu um pouco de fome. Só que a fome passa e você...
They had their canteens on them, but they were empty. They had no water in their canteens. They had the canteens. They had like flashlights, like the guy does there, and the machetes and the knives, and that's all. That's good.
Tô cansado, mas não tô fraco não. Eu conseguiria fazer bastante coisa ainda.
That
Mas
would...
vou comer, né? Porque a gente vai descansar.
We could. We didn't have much bamboo, or actually, we didn't have any bamboo in that area that we could use, and it would have taken them way more time to do that. And it took them just a whole day. It took them a whole day just to build their bed and the fire going. On the other day, I taught them how to nap a piece of obsidiana and skin a rabbit. After they set a rabbit trap and they made sure the trigger was working, they had to skin a rabbit with the obsidian, the volcanic rock, and that's all they had for the other day. That little rabbit over there. Oh yeah, that's right. That's at the end of the course on the third day. You see, that's the 3 badges, all the 3 layers, all the 3 levels. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So that actually gives the student a very good idea of how hard it is for people to affect their survival if they have to rely on bushcraft and primitive techniques, man. And I have heard people saying that before, and I go for the same motto. The more I learn primitive techniques, the more I learn about primitive fire, the more I learn about primitive cord making, the more I want to have a lighter, the more I want to have like a ferro rod, the more I want to have a paracord, bank line, whatever, a piece of tarp above my head. Because, oh yeah, man, definitely. It's awesome. Bushcraft skills, primitive skills, they should be the B plan or the Z plan in your survival strategy, because seriously, I mean, right now in Brazil, in the rainy season, you go out there in the jungle, in the bushes, and you try to play freaking Nazi with the bow drill, man, you are not going to get any fire going. You are not going to make fire now. I mean, unless you bring your primitive set from home and you have your kindling and everything dried out previously and protected. If you have to collect the material from the local, you are not going to get it going. That's not how it works, and people have to understand it, because it looks like so cool when you see these guys on TV running so full of energy and with a knife in a canteen, and they make fire with the sparks and spend the night, on the ground, and the next day they are full of energy. Dude, baloney, man. That's not the reality. I mean, unless you're a super freaky man, that's not the reality. You know what I'm saying? As a backup. Yeah, that's right. No way. I'm not. I'm just a beginner in flint napping. I'm still a paleo napper. I'm not even in the mezzo, but I can make like little arrowheads and some working blades that really shave the head off your arm, but not those fancy knives that I see these people on YouTube and these professional nappers making. I don't know if I'll ever be able to make those, but I'll tell you what. Uh, oh yeah, we do, and we got flint in Brazil too. Yeah, ever since the Portuguese brought them, introduced the metal to these indigenous people, that's the way they wanted to go for. I'm sorry, that's the way they wanted to go for it because it's so tough, man. I many times I try to figure out how hard it would have been for people, for native and indigenous people to move through these jungle areas in the past before they had any metal implements because certain areas you just can't go through if you cannot, cut your way through or hack your way through. And how did they manage? It's really interesting to try to picture that time before metal. And yeah, yes, you're. Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like yeah, in the Amazon, you don't have rocks, you don't have stones in the Amazon, man. Seriously, how did those people, make arrowheads? And I mean, they probably used bamboo, and I know that you can make really sharp knives and cutters out of bamboo, but come on, it's still bamboo. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, this is funny because down here in my area, there is a prehistoric museum and with the skeleton that they found, a skeleton which is 12,000 years old. They found like an arrowhead made out of a stone, a green stone, which we do not have in the Americas. At least not. I'm sure that we do not have it in South America or in Central America. You guys probably have it up there. I forgot its name now, but that
The
shows.
malachite, the green stone you said?
Yeah, it's a green one. It's a pretty beautiful one. I forgot. I'll have to check it out later. Anyway, but that shows that people had been trading gear, trading goods, for a long time because that's the only explanation for that piece of arrowhead to be here with that, and that has to do with what you're saying. These uh, pieces of equipment being passed from generation onto generation just because of the hardness of the difficulty for people to get them, to have access to them, right?
Right.
Yeah, just think if we had, for example, like one of these end of the world scenarios and no government, one of these things people talk about. Just think how valuable are these simple knives and these things that we collect every day. We don't pay much attention. These things would become as valuable as it gets because nobody would be making them anymore, and they would be the only ones. So if you had like a good kukri, a good machete, a good axe, you would make sure your son, your family would keep with that tool and saying helping yourselves through all the years just because you can't make those anymore. So that's the same idea, the same principle. That's what I'm saying. Either there in the past, or if we ever found ourselves in a situation where we couldn't get our equipment, our gear, all this stuff being made anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, now I'm looking at green stones. There's malachite is the one I'm thinking of. It's very pretty, has stripes through it, swirls, things like that. They do have Amazonianite. You know, that is from the Brazilian rivers. That is like a greenish kind of stone. I don't know if it does that well. Aventura, aventurine. I don't know if any of those ring a bell. They have green bloodstones. They actually have a stone called a green stone,
Oh.
and other things like that. But you know, I think it's the trade that went through. The things that we find in some of these, well, you know that because you study the history stuff too. I mean, the things we find in these different areas that have been traded and came across from other countries. I mean, you know, South Pacific, Africa, things like that that make their way over that happened before we ever thought they would. Somebody could have got blown off course. Something could have been traded to, you know, wayfarers and sea people and everything else, and it could have made its way over and all that kind of stuff. It's so cool that the commerce back then was like the commerce is now, where people would trade those things and go that route.
We're human beings. We have the same interest for new things, for novelties, for new products, for, you know, these. For example, when Mac comes down from the States into Brazil and he brings a bag full of knives and little, you know, things, and I think it's so funny because, you know, there's a whole bunch of products and things I had never seen before. And I want to show you guys this one thing here, which it just happens to be here. Hold on a second. This is Mac's bush pillow, right? Now this is a very American thing for you to have in the bush.
Yeah,
You
we
will-
sit on them and lean back on them and all that good stuff.
This is so funny because I never thought of, man, I don't need a bush pillow. I mean, no Brazilians will have a bush pillow. And Max shows up with a bush pillow, and no, he left it down here. He never took it back to the States. And then, you know, not only this thing, but all the other gear. And we have things here which for us are common. And he says, oh, man, just take you, for example. You want to have one of our Zebul folders, which I happen to have one here somewhere. And these are just common things. And I'm going to send you down one of those. You're going to say, oh, man, it's cool. But it's just a pocket knife, and that's just a pillow. And, you know, but we are humans. We like to have access to these, you know,
Oh, yeah.
things, places, and other cultures, right?
Oh, sure. All that
Yeah,
stuff
that's-
goes different places. I mean, I'm really, I feel, I don't know, the guys who did the course with you and did that, it's nice to see is that the highest course you have?
Well, so far, yes, because we have 3 levels of survival. We have level 1, 2, and 3, in which we actually deprive the students from modern material, modern means, modern gear, and replace it for primitive techniques and bushcraft techniques to show them how hard it is to have to rely on those things. But then we also have like a primitive and bushcraft course, and we now have a new course which is a one-day blade. We actually teach our students. There's a bladesmith which has been working with me, and we teach our students how to make a knife on one day that they can use on a survival trip, on a camping trip. On the other day, if they're going to the bush, you can easily make that knife. It doesn't take a whole lot of expensive equipment to make it, and it's a very interesting course too. And there will be a few more courses coming probably this year, but I'm still working on them. But I want to have some more primitive, let's say, or more bushcraft oriented courses coming soon too.
Very cool. Now, getting near the end of the show, we got a minute or so left. Let's see, how do we get hold of you, Giuliano?
Well, you can get a hold of me on Facebook. I have my Facebook, Giuliano Toniolo, and my school has a fan page named Mestre do Mato, which is Bushmaster in Portuguese. On the fan page, we basically discuss things related to the bush, survival, bushcraft, and all that. Whereas on my personal page, I will be, playing videos, playing music, giving my uh, sometimes rather polemic opinion on Brazilian politics and American politics too. Sometimes, anyway. But that's it. You can check me out on Facebook.
There you go. And of course, you
Yeah.
guys can always leave a message for him and say for Giuliano here at aroundthecabin@gmail.com. We'll be happy to take that there and pass it on to him. Not that I don't know him that well. I can probably figure out how to get him a message. Yeah, go that way. So, all right, my friend, the end of the show is here. I appreciate you did a wonderful job, did a great job. I'm going to jump off and grab something to drink before I bring Fixed by Doc in for his show.
Okay,
So,
fix.
now, the 18th, I want to make sure everybody understands. The 18th of January, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's Saturday, we will have a Google Plus Hangout. So all you have to do is add Around the Cabin to your Google Plus, and that Hangout's going to run for about 2 hours. And everybody is invited to come on and to be live with us. And that will be the first show that goes up for our Roku.
Awesome.
So we're going to have
Awesome.
Welcome to Roku, Google Plus Hangout, and
Yeah.
everybody's allowed to be there for that. And we invite everybody to come in, say hi. Give yourselves 5 or 6 minutes and then move on so the next person can jump in, and we'll go that route. And hopefully we'll have 1 million people on there, and you guys will make me run over 2 hours, and we'll go that way. And everything will be good. So we're going to be ready because the end of January, the first part of February, right here, we're hoping the last week of January, the Roku channel is going up, people.
It's awesome.
We'll be doing that. A lot of good shows coming on, a lot of good people coming in, gathering in here. So, Giuliano, my friend, be careful down there. Have you gotten out yet? You got to get out this coming week now, right?
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't get out last week, but I'll definitely go out this week. I need it. I need it.
There you go. All right, tell the wife we said hi, my friend. I'll catch you later, brother.
Thank you, bro. Take it easy. See you. Bye-bye.